Welcome to the Third Eye Show, which brings you ancient wisdom as well as cutting-edge investigations into the mysteries of the universe. The Third Eye Show celebrates our diversity, like the unique beauty of each individual wave, and our oneness, like the magnificent ocean from which each wave emerges. We are all one in spirit as we live on this earth plane. The third eye is said to be able to see into the spiritual and psychic realms. At a time when our lives, our country, and our planet are undergoing intense transformations, we will explore topics that will fascinate, enlighten, and empower. Join us as we witness the thrilling ways spirit manifests in our daily lives and the varied paths we choose to create heaven here on our earth. The Third Eye Show is created and offered in love and light.
Our pets are our babies. They give us unconditional love and acceptance. They make us laugh. They snuggle close when we're blue. They give us so much that it's very hard indeed when they come to the end of their lives. What should we do? Where can we turn for guidance? And after they pass, how can we ever get along without them? Today's Third Eye Show tackles these and other difficult questions. First, animal intuitive Linda Carley, as ably interviewed by Judy Schinck, presents ideas for helping our other pets as well as ourselves through such a loss. Then, Veterinarian Claire Lindo and her husband and office manager, Reza Marukelli, offer medical information and guidance from a compassionate yet professional point of view. If you or anyone you know shares his or her life with animal companions, then you need to watch today's Third Eye Show.
Thank you for joining us today, Linda.
Thank you, Judy. As you know, I love discussing animals, and animals just bring so much joy to me and my life and my family's lives.
And who did you bring with you today?
This is my Duncan. He's one of our Basset Hounds. We have 2 Basset Hounds, and we also have a little Maltese Pomeranian cross, my little Mr. Buffy, who some of the viewers have seen on the on previous programs. And I also have a fairly new pup to us. His name is Shiloh. He's a mixed breed.
And how old is Duncan?
He is 13 now. Actually, in about 3 months or so, he's going to be 14. And as you can see, he's doing quite well. He, is showing us some signs of aging, but other than his occasional ear infections, he's doing quite well.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. Today, I think it might be helpful for some of our viewers to discuss how to cope with the subject of pet loss. What would you recommend for people who have gone through this type of loss?
Yeah, it's really a hard time going through this grieving process. And first of all, I would tell everyone to be gentle with yourself. Allow yourself the time that you need. And remember that you just lost a friend, a dear friend that loved you unconditionally. There's never any questions asked. They're always there for you, and you spend so much of your time caring for them and being with them. So just know it's okay. It's okay to go through this process of loss. The other thing is not to put any time limits on the grieving process. Everyone will go through that in their own time. So just allow that process to happen, knowing that it's okay. There are also groups out there that will help you, help support you. In fact, myself, I hold an animal healing circle once a month, and there's a great group of us that get together on a monthly basis, and we're there to help each other, especially if one is going through a time of loss. There's also a group that some people may know about. It's called the Lightfoot group, and it's all by email pretty much. It's a group that's located out of Mass, and but they send out mass emails to people with animals that need help, that need some healing, and also for if anyone going through the grieving process, everyone's there to help and send energy healing, send prayers to help. So that is a great way to reach out to others. Another thing too is that some people will ask me to telepathically communicate with their pet after they've passed, and that I find is so comforting, and I'm always there to help the person and share any information that I may get from their pet. When the time is right for the person, I will try to help them to connect with their own pet, because I find that can be so comforting just to know that they're there in spirit, that they're there always with you. People will pick that up in different ways. Some people actually will hear a message from a spirit, a pet that's passed on. Some people may smell them. That familiar smell will come back. Some people may feel the brush up against their arm or their leg, and just knowing that they're around. So that can be so healing for the person that is dealing with the loss of their pet.
Right. It sounds like communicating with your deceased pet can be very comforting.
Yes. It's that heart-to-heart connection with them that is really very comforting and helps heal our heart.
Right.
Along with theirs. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I have a friend who had two cats, Fluffy and Henry.
Yeah.
And Fluffy got sick and had to be put down. And after that happened, Henry would mope around the house and act like he was sick. And so my friend went for help, and they said, no, Henry's not sick, he's grieving. Do you have any advice as to what we can do for the surviving pet?
Yeah, our surviving pets do grieve. They get bonded with each other. They're part of the family, and when one has transitioned on into spirit, it definitely the surviving pet will grieve along with us. And some of the symptoms that you may notice in the surviving pet is like what you've mentioned. Some of the pets may have trouble sleeping, just like we would. Lack of appetite, and probably the most common that you'll notice is that they're going to want more attention from their people that's with them. And actually, well, about a month ago now, I lost one of my kitties, and my surviving kitty is just soaking up so much attention, and you know, and that's okay, because you know, I know that they were so close. They were both strays, so they both bonded. The kitty that I lost, he was the one that actually accepted the new stray into the house, and so they just bonded. In fact, they used to sit on the back of our sofa, and I have a picture of their paws reaching out and touching each other, and they just were so close. So my kitty, who's still with us, Max, he's having a real hard time. He's having a hard time. So we just give him lots of attention.
Well, what are some of the things that we can do for our pets and ourselves to help us through that really rough time?
Yeah, and I think it is important that we work through together. And as you just mentioned, you know, for our surviving pet and ourselves, it's, you know, work it through together. spend time together, doing what you like to do that's fun. It might be a time just to cry together. You know, our pets cry. They might not outwardly cry like we do, but their hearts are breaking inside. So spend time with them, and just be with them, and but also remember to have fun, because our deceased pets, the ones that have passed on, they want us to be happy.
Right.
So continue to have fun as well. So if you have that dog that likes to go out and play, you know, continue to go out and play with that dog, because they need to get on with their life as well as we do, and just spend the time together. And a few other things too that I can mention that I think really do help. There are other tools, quote unquote, that we can use. Reiki, we have discussed this on the Third Eye shows before, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. I think a lot of people are very familiar with Reiki now. But Reiki is a hands-on energy technique, and it will help balance our chakras, the energy fields. Many of the viewers are probably familiar with chakras. Chakras are energy fields. We have 7 major energy fields that surround our body, and the Reiki energy will help balance those energy fields, those chakras. Thus then, in turn, will promote healing and will help relaxation. I find that a big part of my work is with animals, and doing Reiki to maybe an animal that is ill and going through the dying process, or after the fact, if the pet has passed, then helping the surviving pet and or their people. It can be such a wonderful, wonderful healing tool. So, and when I do that, just to briefly explain what a session might look like, is if I'm going to someone's house, I'll probably plan about an hour. And because most animals, they'll like to have like about 10 to 15 minutes of Reiki, and then they want to break. It's like they're so sensitive to the energy. So I will give them what they want for Reiki, and then they'll probably go off and just take a break. I'll hang out and either give the person some Reiki, or we'll just, visit. And then when the animal comes back, then I'll do some more Reiki.
Right.
Another thing that I use a lot of is aromatherapy. And that is the use of pure essential oils, where you can smell it, you can put it on you. Very important that it's pure essential oil and not a synthetic fragrance oil.
Right.
Our brains can decipher what a pure essential oil is because it's from nature. It's a life source of the plant. So how I would use a pure essential oil is, for instance, with lavender, to help me, to help others relax, even animals. It helps them relax. Pardon me. And I love using the lavender. Just, you can do pure and just put a drop on their bed. Or if it's for us, we can spray it in a room. I actually have a sprayer here where I've mixed up lavender and water and some alcohol. Usually I use like a vodka because it's doesn't smell. And and then you just spray it in the air, and then you're smelling it. The whole family's smelling it. The animal's smelling it. And that just really helps. Lavender is great. The other essential oil that's wonderful to use is rose, because rose is going to heal the heart.
Right.
There are many places you can go out and you can purchase the essential oils in the stores, in the health food stores. However, use a word of caution. Only lavender and tea tree can be used pure without being diluted on the skin. Okay, and so research any oil that you think you might want to use, and make sure that there's no precautions that you need to worry about.
Right.
For instance, let me give you an example. Eucalyptus. You wouldn't want to use eucalyptus if you had high blood pressure or if you had someone with epilepsy. if they had seizures in your house. So you just want to be very cautious about that.
So you'd want to educate yourself a little.
Exactly. Right. So but pure essential oils aromatherapy can be a great thing. It can really, really help because they are, of the earth. Pure essential oils, the life source of the plant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So now another thing that you can use are flower essences. These work on a vibrational level. They're actually the vibration of flower petals. And what we do is you can either purchase them or you can make them if you have a nice garden. You can make them by just dropping your flower on some water, nice spring water, letting it set in the sun for 3 to 4 hours, and then you're going to take that water without the petals, and just going to discard the petals in a nice area outside to let them return to the earth, and then you preserve it with either alcohol or red cider vinegar, something to that effect that's going to preserve them. If you don't like using the alcohol, you can use the vinegar. Now these, as I was saying, will help heal on a vibrational level. I will usually use a rose flower essence, and I'll put 3 to 4, maybe 5 drops, maybe even more, depending on what I'm guided, either in my water, I drop them on my tongue. I use them all the time for my animals as well. The other thing that I use are crystals. I love using crystals. I find that crystals, especially like a rose quartz, will help heal the heart. Let me just show you a rose quartz is like this, a beautiful pink stone. We have, going back to the chakras, we have those 7 chakras that surround us, and the heart chakra vibrates with color, also with crystals. All of our chakras would. And the heart chakra, I find, for self-healing especially so, resonates very well with pink, and therefore I use the, once again to show you, the rose quartz. Okay. Other stones that you can use, many of your books that you'll read, many of the charts that you'll see on chakras will indicate green color for the heart, and that can be used as well. And I may use like a malachite. This is a malachite stone, very beautiful green stone. I love using the malachite as well. Now another one that can be used is a fluorite. Because some of them that you can purchase actually, or that you can find, actually will have pink and green in them. So you're capturing both of the colors.
Right.
Yeah. And so I will use the stones. I'll sometimes lay them right on my heart. I'll lay them around the animals. I've actually, even for one of my animals a few years ago, someone made a pendant for me, and I was able to attach it to their collar. So it was on their heart area. And another thing you can do, which I do a lot of, is I will put the gem in water and make like a gem elixir or gem water, as some people call it, and then you can drink the water, or just put a few drops on their food, which I will quite often do. But the one thing too is we both know, because we've been through losing animals, that our emotions can really make us forget that there are these tools out there. And so it's, contact each other, support each other, and then, I'm always here to help. And because it can be a very difficult time.
Right, I agree. I know I have 2 cats at home, and I know every time they get sick, panic starts to set in, and you forget everything you ever learned about animal health, and and I can imagine the same thing happens when you lose a pet and you're going through grief, that the same thing happens. It's very important to keep communication with friends.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I know that you've had many, many pets in your time.
Yes.
And you've gone through a great deal of loss. Do you have any personal experiences you'd like to share with us today?
Well, you know, Judy, I think overall, the most comfort for me is I really feel and sense all of my deceased pets around me. And two of them in particular that actually help me with my classes and help me with connecting with other animals is actually one of them I've mentioned on reincarnation segment, Isaac and Zachary. I really feel they're the same spirit, and they help me with many of my classes. They'll actually connect with the students and help them along their spiritual journey. It's just a wonderful thing. Another one of my pets that will do the same is Lucretia, and she's a Doberman that we had many years ago. And all of my deceased pets really are there when I ask them for help. And but those in particular that I just mentioned have come forward and said, yeah, you know, I'll help you and I'll help others as they're going through this journey. And I think that that's what really helps me. It's such a blessing for me to be able to work with them on a spiritual level. And you know, whether it's dogs or cats, depending on the situation that I'm dealing with at the time, it just helps my heart to heal, being able to connect with them heart to heart.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Linda, for the information you've given us today. It's been very helpful to me, as I'm sure it will be to our viewers. And I also want to thank those at home for joining us on the Third Eye Show today. Blessings to you and your pets.
You're watching The Third Eye Show.
A lot of times people will ask, how do I know that if it's time? Am I doing this too soon? Am I waiting too long? And so a lot of times we talk about quality of life, that in contrast to the human field where you have no choice, you stay until they medically can't keep you alive any longer. We have the option of euthanasia, where we can humanely and compassionately give them peace, let them go slowly and peacefully on to a better place. But they still want to know, when is that time? They don't want to do it too soon, understandably, and also don't want to do it too late. And so we start to talk about, are they comfortable? Are they in pain? Are there things that we can do to help make them more comfortable before that time comes? There are better and better drugs we're having for dealing with arthritis pain and other cancer pains and things like that, so that can be helpful. But if we're at the point where there isn't much we can do about their pain, we start talking about euthanasia, or we start talking about what are the things that make your pet them. What's their personality like? Is this the pet that loves food and now all of a sudden they're no longer wanting food anymore? Is this the pet that loves to go for a walk with you and they can't go for those walks with you anymore? And so it's looking at what are the things that give them quality to their life, that make them happy. When you start to see that they're not able to do those things as well anymore, that now you have to decide, when are they having kind of more good days than bad days? When is the balance between having more bad days than good days? So that's part of it. And then there's an individual bit for each person, that for some people they want to have every last good day they possibly can, and that means that you have to deal with some bad days. And for other people, they'd rather that their pet didn't have any bad days, which means that you're going to miss out on some good days. Neither one of them is right or wrong. It really depends on the family, it depends on the pet, because those are their family members. It's not like someone's making this decision carelessly or callously. But every person has a different opinion about that. So those are some of the things that we start to talk about, and people need to think about where they stand on those kinds of things when it comes to, is it time to euthanize a pet? Is it time to make that final appointment?
And another issue that arises is people sometimes are not sure whether their interpretation of the situation is okay. They want to know that it's okay. And everybody is an individual, obviously, and we encourage individuality from the point of view of the approach to caring for their loved one. And the loved one could be a dog, it could be a cat, it could be a guinea pig, it could be a horse. Whether it's any of the animals, it has the equal amount of importance to this individual. Some people don't always understand that, because we may have an individual in the hospital with their dog and they're waiting for their appointment, and another individual may come in with a guinea pig, and it may be time for the guinea pig. There may be a very different set of circumstances that you think about when you talk about how comfortable one is as compared to the other. But it's, to the individual, it's of equal importance. And so helping them understand that it's okay is an important part of doing that. And sometimes you have to realize that there's a different level of involvement. A dog is more involved in people's lives, interacts with them differently than a little guinea pig. But to many individuals, if they have taken the time to seek supportive care for their animal, it doesn't matter what the species. To the individual, it is equally important. And sometimes you also have to point that out to the individual, that they need not be concerned about what anybody else thinks. This is their time, it's their animal's time. And people do think about this. See, what I'm getting at is you help allay the fears of being concerned about what others think, and you help direct them to being focusing, or to focus on their individual pet and the individual concerns, and then you move to the decision. And I just wanted to mention that because other people, they have different points of view towards it. We've had many people come in sometimes and will say, wasn't that just a little rat? And you say, yes, it was. That rat's name was Tom, or what have you. And that person is now discussing what's going on, and then other people will ask, well, why were they leaving and crying? And you explain why. And we feel that, well, not that we've done our job well, but we've helped them effectively if when they leave, they are comfortable with understanding that it was time. Because in our field, as Dr. Claire tells everyone, when we enter a situation where it's an appointment that is evaluating and then leading to euthanasia, she explains to everyone that this is something that we have in our field that we do not have in the medical field, in the human medical field. We do not have the luxury or the ability to determine when we're in a situation of pain and discomfort that we can simply go. But we can't do that for ourselves yet, but we can do that for our loved ones, which gives us a power that we don't normally have. We don't normally have a power like that over the other loved ones in our family. So helping someone to be comfortable with that level of power is also part of what is involved in the appointment.
Helping them to understand that they are helping their pets. A lot of people do feel guilty, like they're doing something bad, and they need permission to be able to make that decision to euthanize their pet. And when we get to the point where we're discussing it, it's usually pretty close to being time for them to make that decision, because they don't enter it lightly, but they do need permission to say, yes, it's okay for you to care enough about your pet to not want them to suffer, and that it's, even though it's a difficult decision for people to make, that it is indeed something wonderful they're doing for their pet, for their loved one, to help end their suffering. We do usually talk a little bit about what the euthanasia entails. Euthanasia these days has evolved a little bit, and so it is usually an overdose of an anesthetic. Sometimes some animals, depending on how the animal is or how the owners feel, will get an injection under the skin that's a sedative to help make them relax and almost fall asleep, be anesthetized, though not completely gone, before doing the actual euthanasia, the injecting the solution that is the true overdose of anesthesia that causes them to just peacefully relax and go to sleep. Other animals, it's just the injection itself, and it is indeed, most people are surprised at how rapidly but peacefully their animals go to sleep. They relax and they just slow down and they just stop breathing. It's not a painful thing, it's not uncomfortable for them. The family can be there and be around them if they want to, but that's also another decision that people need to make. Do you want to be there? For some people, they need to be there, they want to be there and pet their pet while this is going on, And for other people, they need to be able to remember their pet the way they are alive, to be able to leave them and know that they'll be in caring hands and be able to walk away and not have to stay there, because for some people that's not an easy thing to see. And so people need to know that they do have options, they do have choices. And so we try to talk to them about those things, that they have those options, and knowing what's going to happen when the euthanasia happens, that they're going to relax and go to sleep. There are some minor things like the fact that their eyes don't close after they pass, just so that they're not finding these things unexpectedly. But in general, it's kind of talking about the what to expect for it and what their options are in terms of being there or not being there, or sedation or not sedation, being able to feed their pets, being able to comfort them, those kinds of things.
I'd just like to mention the noise, the grinding noise, is one of our dogs, Zach, who's underneath the table munching on a bone. And he's more comfortable being beneath us than away from us. When we're in the appointment with an individual and we're talking about it, obviously when we're in there and we're beginning the process of performing the euthanasia, it's a process. There's sort of a step-by-step in our minds mentally of what you go through and what you help to explain, and certainly we've said it many times. That doesn't change the importance of it for each individual, but there's a component of the appointment that is involved with simply sensing how people are. Some people are comfortable talking about the situation, some people need to, and some people are not, and that is something that we as professionals in the appointment try to pay attention to and react to or work with. And many people need to, sometimes you can tell someone needs to be distracted a little bit. As Claire's explaining what will happen with, of course, as I was mentioning about the sort of the power that we have in this appointment, you're telling the owner of this animal, which is their baby, which is their loved one, you now have the power to determine when their life on this plane stops, so to speak. And that's different than what most of us deal with on a daily basis. And so talking with them, talking with the owners about what happens physically to the body, preparing them for what the body may do in passing so that they understand that it's okay. Because of course a body is muscle and bone and electrical signals, and it will react even in passing. So they will remind people that the body may actually appear to breathe. And sometimes we will use something like that to help people understand that the animal is passing. And some people will look at that as almost like they've taken a last breath of life, or their spirit, their essence moving on. If people are spiritual in that sense, it helps a lot with that.
When some pets pass, they still have some electrical impulses that cause some muscles to twitch, and sometimes it's the little whisker that will twitch or the little skin muscle that will twitch, but sometimes it's the diaphragm that twitches, and they seem like they take a big breath and let it out. And so for some people, if they're not prepared for that, we don't want them to be upset by that, to realize that it's not their pet having any discomfort. One person described it, they said it was kind of like their pet's soul letting go. I thought that was very sweet, very nice.
There's almost a sense or an essence of when they're very old and they're very uncomfortable. This is just an observation of what we've done many, many times. They pass many times very quickly and very quietly. It's almost as if they are sort of breathing a sigh of relief, thankful to move on out of their physical body, and the energy that is them is now able to be released. And they almost seem grateful for it. It's hard to explain, but it's a feeling that you get. On the occasion where it certainly has arisen, where we've had to perform euthanasias on animals that have not been older, they've been younger, but because of difficult situations, whether an animal there may have been an aggression problem, and it hasn't been successful treatments working with it. As a contrast, sometimes these animals, you can almost tell that they weren't as ready, and they take a little longer. But in helping someone to understand that they're ready to go, of course we're talking about something that we're feeling, not measuring in a medical sense. Most of the time, almost all the time, the animals that are older and tired, they let go. And it's very quickly and very peacefully. Many people have remarked on being surprised at how peaceful, how quiet it was. And that is, obviously, we feel we're very happy that they are comfortable enough with that.
For many veterinarians, the convenience euthanasia of I just don't want this pet anymore, they won't do. We don't do. And so there are humane societies, there are shelters, there are other options available if you just don't want this pet. We have had people who have brought pets to us that were kind of a convenience euthanasia, and we've told them that if this animal doesn't have personality problems or behavior problems, then you can pay us to euthanize them and cremate them, but we're going to find them another home, and we're going to tell you that right now. And most people are either accepting of that, if not very happy for that. We have had some people who they could not do anything for their pet, and so they brought them to us, but they were very happy that we were able to fix minor medical problems or things like that and be able to find them a good home. So when we're talking about euthanasia and end of life, you're absolutely correct. We're talking about animals that they are already dying. It's more giving them, deciding the quality of their life at the end, and when is the time where you allow them a death with dignity. Most of the animals that come in, I would say 99% of them, if not more, they're ready. They've accepted it. The pets that, normally were nervous in an exam in a vet's office, they're relaxed and they're comfortable. The ones that might not have always taken treats because they were nervous, they're willing to eat. They're willing to sit and let us touch them and pet them in ways that they've just relaxed, and they're not looking at what are you going to do next. Some of them honestly have almost offered up their leg to say, it's time, do it now. It's quite an interesting thing, but it is definitely about helping them to die with dignity rather than to be just in agony at the end or to have severe difficulties.
Just to clarify, when people have called in for the convenience euthanasia, which obviously I don't think there's any veterinarian that is comfortable or happy with a scenario like that. Some people truly don't view the animal as the family member, a cat or dog, what have you. They view it as a convenience or an object, and that's okay in the eyes of the law. And that a pet is a possession. That doesn't mean in our eyes or in the eyes of most people, it is only a possession. But for those people, they call in, and if we can, we will try to take the animal, cure what ails it, place it in the home. Obviously, we can't do that for every animal because that happens many times. We try to redirect them to a humane society, find a good home. Surely it is a nicer idea than euthanizing this animal to find it a home, even if it may have a simple ailment that can be fixed, or even if it's a little more complicated, but you just don't have the time.
And in that vein, we have the River Valley Animal Protection League is a local humane organization in our area that we've helped to start that does indeed take animals. It's a humane organization, so they accept animals for placement. We do have some people that help with behavior work, as well as obviously we take care of the medical problems surrounding that pet, and we've had a number of very successful adoptions through them, and we can give you the website information and contact information for them if you have a pet that you just need to give up, rather than an animal that's having a quality of life issue.
To add into the River Valley Animal Protection League, which is the group that we work with most directly locally to us, there are certainly, in a broader sense within our region, there are many animal protection leagues that we will actually make known. Our region being specifically Charlestown, Sullivan County, Springfield, Vermont, that area, New Hampshire, Vermont. We will actually we'll have available, I think, on the website will be lists of all of our local humane societies, as well as perhaps regionally. You can probably call your local animal hospital, whoever you may deal with, and find any of the humane societies or protection leagues, what have you, that they may be willing to work with you. Of course, in different times of the season, they may be more or less full, but most of them are open to talking with you about any of the particular issues. as we have. And our animal protection league that we have formed locally here is very small, so we try to help as best we can. But it's one of many tools that any individual can use.
There are larger organizations like Pet Finders that can help with adoptions. A lot of humane organizations use that website to help find homes for pets. So that's definitely one national organization. But as Reza said, most animal hospitals would have a list of local humane organizations to talk to. So that's something that anyone anywhere can do. Some of the humane organizations may ask you if you can foster your pet in your own home for a while if they are full, if they don't have any space specifically in the shelter. That's another option that most people don't know about, that if they know that they need to find a new home for a pet, but it doesn't have to be immediately, that they can be fostering their own pet while it's waiting for placement. So there definitely are options, are alternatives to euthanasia when it's not about a quality of life issue for them that can make it a little easier.
Yeah, I think many times, well, I'd like to say optimistically that many times when an individual calls in for lack of a better term, a convenience euthanasia because the cat or dog or whatever doesn't fit in their house or their home life, optimistically I'd like to think that they just didn't understand all the options that are available to them. So, as Claire mentioned, I think almost any animal hospital, we'd end up developing our own lists of the local humane societies that work in the area. So anyone that were to see the show, if they were to call their local animal hospital, they would probably find that they had developed a similar type of a list. Or they may have behaviorists, pet behaviorists, trainers, what have you. Because many times, even whether it's a cat or a dog with behavioral problems, if it's leading to the need to euthanize the animal because the behavioral problem hasn't been effectively addressed, they may not have realized, or you as a pet owner may not have realized, that you have opportunities out there to employ people that work in this field directly every day. It's truly an area that is a little less explored and a little less understood. So and we.
Yeah. There are trainers, there are actually veterinary behaviorists, veterinarians who have gone on and are now board certified in behavior that can work on helping to resolve behavior issues, that can also help if sometimes medications, I should say, are helpful in changing behaviors. Certainly the sooner you seek that kind of advice, the easier it is to resolve those issues.
When we were talking about the pet loss and after an appointment, when someone is leaving and they're going home with the thoughts of, have I done this at the right time? Hopefully we've done a good job ourselves of helping them to feel comfortable with that. Many of the veterinary schools have pet loss helplines, and I believe countrywide many of them are 800 numbers, so they're available for people to call in, and the individuals that are on these helplines will just help work with a pet owner to help them understand whether or not they made a good decision. Most of the time, hopefully, we've helped them be comfortable with this, but timing, many times you'll reconsider. So talking on a pet helpline helps with that as well.
The grief counseling is certainly very important for people when they're losing their pets, whether their pets have died or whether they've had to make that decision to euthanize them. And I'm not sure which is harder on people, to have their pets go at home where they didn't make the decision and then to have regrets versus to have to make that decision and feel you had to make that decision. And it's not an easy thing for people either way. For us, as Reza alluded to a number of times, it's hard on us to do the euthanasias just because it's a sad thing in some ways, but at the same time we feel that it's our job and it's our duty to help the animals to pass peacefully and gently, so that it's easy on them, and at the same time to help the owners to be as comfortable with that decision as possible. And it is definitely something that we consider our job was done appropriately if we can make sure that that the animal passes peacefully, that the owners, as much as they may be grieving, can at least know that they did the right thing for their pet and be at least comforted by that.
Some people, when we enter the exam room for the euthanasia appointment, have asked us. They've obviously, they're not to say that anybody is more or less sensitive, but they've realized, as they're talking about their pet with us, that they've realized that we have to talk about this a lot, many times every day, sometimes 2 or 3 times in a day. We've had days where we began our day at 6 o'clock in the morning with an emergency euthanasia for a very old animal or a very uncomfortable animal, or any scenario, and then we've ended our day with an emergency euthanasia. And when I say an emergency euthanasia, I mean, quite literally speaking, an animal that may be experiencing an advanced medical condition that may have fallen, per se, and is now in a position where it's in such pain that the euthanasia is giving it its release. It's going to be in pain if we wait any longer. So we're sensitive to that, because these are also, even though they're not our pets, they are our clients' babies, and we see them in the same way. And even though we may not have seen them all from puppy or kittenhood, or from being basically a baby, whether a rat or a guinea pig or a dog or a cat, many times we've known these animals for many, many years, and there's a little feeling of loss with us as well. So people realize when they're talking to us that we are also experiencing a sense of loss, but we're trying to help with them as well, and which is very kind, because it is nice to be recognized when we are experiencing a sense of loss that we have to sort of somewhat keep inside, because we're trying to help the client be more comfortable with their situation. We also explain that it is a little easier for us because we realize that we are helping, and for the animal, for the client, we understand better than the client many times, because we're more comfortable with it, that we are truly helping the animal to feel better. So we can feel more comfortable with that situation on a daily basis, because we're truly helping. We're doing what we do. Claire is doing what she does as a doctor, helping them to determine if the last medical approaches have been used, and now it's time. So it is something that it's been nice to have experienced when people have asked, because we do think about it. But it is easier for us on a daily basis, because that is part of what we do, what we help with, how we make them more comfortable.
One of the other questions that comes up for people and helping them to be comfortable with the decision is also, what about now that my home is empty because I no longer have this pet, do I get another pet right away? Do I wait a period of time? And that's a question that is also an individual question. There isn't any person that the new pet replaces the old pet. Having a second child doesn't replace your first child. It's just it's a different individual. For some people, they need to have something there to love them and to accept their love during this grieving process. And if that's the case, then that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that, and that's the best thing for that situation. For other people, they need to have a period of time where they can have mourning without having the responsibilities or any kind of emotional distraction of another animal. They need to feel that they grieved properly for their first pet, and that also is appropriate. It's definitely an individual decision, whether you wish to go out and find another pet right away, or whether you need to wait a little bit of time, whether you're going to go out and get a kitten or a puppy, whether you're going to find another adult animal through a humane organization to help to share your life with you. But those are also things that people need to understand, that if they need to get another pet, yes, you have permission to get another pet. You're not somehow being unfaithful to your previous pet by getting another one. We all know that you're not replacing the last one, that you're just having someone else to share your life with. And your previous pet, I don't think would hold that against you.
Yeah, many people in an appointment will express concern that are they making the right decision to adopt another animal, almost having a perception that there's a right or wrong. And we just, in our opinion, it's our opinion in counseling that it isn't a right or wrong, it's what's right for you. And many times when people acquire a new pet, it's because it sort of happens, the pet finds them. And encouraging people to be open to being found again sometimes is important, because some people may shut themselves off from it. But every individual has a different approach. Every individual has a different need, and it's okay to consider that. when they think about their loss. But there are many, many, as we alluded to, the Animal Protection Leagues, the Humane Societies. There are many animals that are in need of homes. And we think about a new animal sometimes because we've lost one. That doesn't mean that it's replacing, as Claire said. It doesn't mean that you can't adopt two. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't adopt any. It just is what it is. What your emotional needs are, you need to be comfortable with and be open to. Because many times we find with their clients that when they've acquired an animal, they've kind of found each other. And I guess to leave it with keeping yourself open to being found by a cat or a dog is a nice way of viewing it.
Do you know what it means when you dream about animals? Well, keep in mind that the meanings of symbols in dreams vary with the individual, as well as with the context of the dream. These are just general pointers that I'm going to give you. But for example, although an ape generally is taken to represent mischievous aspects of the dreamer's personality, if in the context of the dream you're dancing with this ape, doing the tango and having a wonderful time, it might mean one thing. Or if the ape is chasing you down Main Street throwing rocks at you, it might mean something else. So do keep in mind these are just general pointers. From here you can perhaps think a little more deeply about the context and what your particular relationship with that specific animal is and get a feeling for what the dream might be telling you, okay? So I'm just going to run through a few animals that show up, I think, fairly frequently in our dreams. How about the bear? The bear is said to represent your mother. How about the cat? Cats represent feminine or yin energy. And by yin energy, I mean energy that is receptive, intuitive, cooperative, and so on. A dog, as you might well guess, represents fidelity and faithfulness. If you dream about an elephant, you may be dreaming about wisdom. Perhaps you need to acquire more wisdom. Perhaps you're seeking wisdom. A fox represents cunning, which it generally does in literature and so on, right? A frog may represent a period of transformation. A goat represents masculine or yang energy. Now, what do I mean by that? Yang energy is assertive, is forceful, is creative. A hare or rabbit represents intuition. Now again, if you have a pet rabbit, you may be dreaming about your pet rabbit Snowball, and it might be that simple. So I just want to make sure everybody's clear about this. But in general, if you don't have any particular association with hares, with rabbits, and you dream about one, you may be dreaming about intuition. This may be a trigger for you to start to develop your intuition or to pay attention to your intuition, what your intuition is telling you. A horse has lots of different meanings. Generally, the horse represents the dreamer's self-image. In tarot, the horse often represents the person's will. If you see a horse that looks frightened, maybe this is something you should stop and take a closer look at it. The horse is enjoying himself, full speed ahead, and so on. A lion represents the dreamer's ego. So what is the lion doing? What are the circumstances in which the lion finds itself? These are pointers for you. An otter is said to model playfulness for us. Maybe if you dream about an otter, you need to lighten up. A monster or dragon represents our fears. And again, what's the context? What's happening with this monster or dragon? Is it your pet? Is it licking you and you're playing together and throwing frisbees? Or is it chasing you down Main Street throwing rocks at you? A pig represents unattractive qualities such as selfishness. Maybe you're talking to yourself about something that you need to start working on. Prehistoric animals, dinosaurs, can represent the past or past life traumas. Snakes, now snakes are interesting. They represent the dreamer's deep instinctive self. They can represent fear, death, sexuality, and dormant urges. So if you dream about a snake, I would really think about, what's going on a deep level inside of me. A toad represents whatever we consider ugly, which is kind of funny. I don't think that would happen to me because I like toads. So if I dreamt about a toad, it would probably have a different meaning. So again, keep that in mind. And finally, a wolf is said to represent a feeling of danger. And I know I have friends who would take issue with that because they love wolves very much and would not get a sense of danger from it. So keeping in mind that the context matters and your personal relationship, if any, with these animals, here's some pointers, and I hope that you enjoy.